Hello and welcome to your astrological vibrations for Tuesday, December 29th, 2020 by Gaia Blooming. I am Mimi and our energy mantra for today is my response to what energies show up in my world is my personal responsibility. And if we can grasp that lesson of responsibility, we will be all so far ahead of the game. It's a big lesson, though, to shift into responsibility. And I think this full moon energy that we have today, late Tuesday night, will be helping us, supporting us. So we have a full moon tonight, sign of Cancer, 8 degrees Cancer. It's happening at 7:28 p.m. Pacific time. And full moons are always profound and have a lot of energy. I always say specifically the full moon in Cancer can definitely pack a punch. So be aware of that. If you've been feeling a little bit more emotional the last couple days, I think it's great. Honestly, I think it's so great. We're winding down this year we've called 2020 and there has been a lot of emotion. There's been a lot of feelings going on. And so this full moon, like capping off this year, feels really appropriate. So let yourself feel, let yourself emote. That is part of your personal responsibility. And it's interesting, you know, because Cancer is arguably the most emotional sign of the zodiac, and Capricorn is arguably the most unemotional sign of the zodiac. Now, neither of that fits perfectly because you could be like, hey, I'm a Sagittarius and I'm emotional, you know, so don't take that completely verbatim. And yet, Capricorn energy does like to hold itself in control, which emotions can feel not controlled. And Cancer is where we meet our inner infant. It's where we hopefully not eat, meet our inner mother. It's where we are called to nurture. It's where we're called to feelings. It's where we recognize the superpower energy of our personal feelings. So again, emoting whatever is coming up and out for you at this time is important. And I always say, like, the word emotion, there's the word motion in there. We're meant to move these energies through. So whether it is through interpretive dance or if it's through writing in your journal or punching a punching bag or talking to a friend, bringing in motion to help process these energies will only serve to help you and your personal responsibility to this energy. So as we build to this full moon energy, we have a few connections going on. We have the moon connecting to Uranus, and then with the full moon, we actually have it connecting in pretty closely to Pallas energy, which I find really interesting. So moon connecting to Uranus. Again, triggers have been and will continue to be a part of this process. So appreciating the triggers, appreciating that you're being triggered. If things are up for to be triggered, they're up to be healed. You know, like otherwise it's going to stay buried until it's ready. And so appreciate that energy because it's meant to be bringing it up for you to be moved through it. So just be aware of that. I would also say that it may be kind of a day between full moon energy and Uranus taking part in that energy. You may feel a little tired, wired. I know Joe did not actually sleep last night because the full moon has him up and wired. So if you're feeling that as well, the full moon over effect will come back around. And rest will come. Cancer will make sure of it. Your needs will be met. That Pallas energy, that's what I'm really looking at. I'm like literally staring at the chart right here and I'm like, oh, this Pallas energy. So we have Pallas in Aquarius. Pallas has spent a large deal of time with the whole Jupiter-Saturn crew, and Pallas is kind of moving ahead. Pallas often represents patriarchal energies. It can also represent the energy that we can embody once we rise up past those patriarchal energies. And yet I think we're still in the place where we need to deal with the patriarchal energies. So it's interesting that we have this inconjunct between the almost full moon in Cancer and this palace energy. And I think we need to realize where even in our nurturing, even in the place where we try to bring the energy of understanding, when it comes to our emotions, when it comes to how we're living in life, where we can compartmentalize, where we still carry that energy, and where that energy is keeping us trapped in cycles. As you remember, this is a really big week for unwinding, undoing some pretty major cycles if you listen to my week ahead energy. So this is a place where we need to be aware of where we are still participating in and being a conduit for patriarchal energies that no longer serve, that are no longer useful to our personal evolution. And again, the thing I keep coming back to is the energy around feeling. The Sabian symbol is really interesting for this, and I haven't completely wrapped my head around it, like, how this fits in, and yet I keep hearing it calling to me. So the Sabian symbol for where the moon in Cancer is, a group of rabbits dressed in human clothes walk as if parade. Inspiration just hit. And the keynote is the tendency in all forms of life to imitate higher forms as a stimulus to growth. Okay, here we go. So, I grew up Catholic, so I grew up with God the Father energy. And I remember being taught about this loving, man in the sky, big white beard and all that. And yet how I could go to hell if I maybe sinned, or how people could go to hell even if they didn't know about God and somehow sinned, or didn't know what the right thing was to do. And I was always so confused about that. Here's the thing. We've been rabbits, dressed as these patriarchal figures. We have, many of us, in subtle ways and non-subtle ways, it even says it, I think, in the Bible, we are made in the image of God, image and likeness of God, and yet there is this patriarchal, ready to punish eye in the sky, always watching us, always watching for where are you going to be bad? What are you going to do with your genitals? What are you going to do with that? That kind of energy. And I think this is a call for all of us, full moon in Cancer, to remember divine mother energy. I have to send a shout out to Sarah, because as soon as that just clicked and downloaded, a conversation I had with my friend Sarah is what really clicked in. And so remembering in this world that has been formed in the last, we'll say 2 centuries or so, in this patriarchal image, that we, as part of the changes, we, as part of our personal responsibility, can remember God, universe, spirit, the all that is. It's not this masculine form. Although who knows? Who knows what it really is? I mean, do I really know? I don't know. I think in the core of me I do know. And I think in the core of me, what this thing is love. It's a divine force of love. What it looks like, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't look like anything. And yet coming back to that place of love can allow me to shift out of that patriarchal energy. And so I think awareness in this full moon, where are you being called to shift? How are you being called to show up as a rabbit and dress up? How are you being called to dress up? How are you being called to show up? What is that responsibility? Because again, those rabbits, okay, that's their response to dress as humans. So how are we going to dress up? How are we going to align ourselves with this energy? Again, in a time of major change where I do believe the universe is counting on us to make profound shifts. And even again, that Uranus energy, I mentioned the triggers, but Uranus energy is change. So Uranus feeding into this full moon energy is like, you can change, you can liberate yourself. You don't have to be under that guise of what religion has said that this God energy is any longer. So that's just my interpretation with this full moon. Take it as you will. But again, holding space for understanding, holding space for that freedom, holding space for that growth. And I would say even holding space for the balance. The God in the sky image that so many of us were taught about in religion really does not leave room for the feminine. And I do believe if we are made in God's image, that there's much more to God than man in the sky. So, and I think a lot of us are past that image as well, and yet it is brought to our attention again and again and again. How many times is God called he? And paintings, again, we're kind of bombarded by that image. And so this is a call to take our personal responsibility back, our personal image of God, universe, spirit, all that is, divine love, back. Is there anything else I want to say in this? I think the other thing that I just want to mention, because it's incoming, again, that Venus, Neptune, South Node energy, there really is some really old, deep stuff coming up. And just watch your escapism. Now, everything in balance, because before I did this scope, I was like laying, meditating, and had, you know, something on in the background. It could have been said that I was in escapism. I was listening deeply, but we need those times of tune out as well. So no shame in that. Just watch your personal balance in it. So I'm going to leave this here. This feels like enough. You can book a reading with me. Email me, mimiclark@gmail.com. I have my 2021 readings still going. We can get those in, you know, in the next week or so. You can book a regular reading with me as well. Besides that, the better it gets, the better it gets. There's more than enough love in the world for you. You have the power. And stay curious. Namaste.